It's still cold outside, but don't be fooled. Spring sports are in the spotlight. Quinnipiac baseball is undefeated in the MAC, while the women's golf team flies under the radar. Plus, our analysts talk lacrosse, and we give all our final roars. Don't touch that mouse. Bobcat Breakdown starts right now. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Bobcat Breakdown. I'm your host, Mike Riley, and I'm joined tonight by my fellow Jersey boys, Tom Krasnowski and Jonathan Banks. Fellas, how are we?
We're great, Mike. Thanks for having us. Tom and I are both Flyers and Sixers fans, so we might be rivals right now, but tomorrow come playoff time, we won't be.
Yeah, you're lucky I don't really care about basketball that much, but we'll see what happens come Stanley Cup playoff time. Well, the baseball team is undefeated in MAC play so far as they are 6-0. Guys, with this hot start, is there a chance this team can ride the momentum into a #1 finish in the MAC standings?
Well, there's definitely a chance that they can ride their momentum into the #1 seed. Right now, they're undefeated in MAC play. They've got a nice combination of power hitting and starting pitching. They're not too young, they're not too old. They've got a knack for winning in the clutch. But there's definitely some stiff competition in the MAC. I'm looking at Canisius. They're the best overall team in this conference. They've been that way for quite some time. They're just as good a hitting team as Quinnipiac, and they have even better pitching. It's deeper. They have just as good a rotation and a much better bullpen. Gets those strikeouts in the key moments. We'll get to talk about QU pitching in just a bit, but Canisius has had a real good bullpen. That and their savvy makes them tough to beat.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm looking at Manhattan. They're 5-1 in the conference, 14-16 on the year. That's all on the road. So once they get playing home, you got to think their record's going to improve a little bit. Manhattan and Canisius are going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, Tom, I hear you, but I really think they have no shot at winning the MAC. And I'm saying that now. I mean, they beat Monmouth and St. Peter's. Those were the bottom 3 teams in the MAC last year with Quinnipiac, so Quinnipiac's the king of the bottom 3 last year. Good for them. I'm not saying they're a bottom 3 team right now, but can they really be one of the best teams in the conference, and right now the best team in the conference when Brian Moskey's their leading hitter? He's hitting .324. That's 11th in the conference. They need more than that to carry the team, and this holds true. This includes the fact that they played St. Peter's, who came into the season on a 38-game losing streak, and they scored 42 runs against St. Peter's, and still they have no hitters up there in terms of production.
Yeah, I don't think they win the MAC. I think they're definitely a top 4 team, though. I think they've taken that leap.
Okay.
It takes at least a 700 winning percentage to win the MAC. It's been that way every year for at least the last 6. That's a lot to win 70% of your games in the conference. I'm not sure Quinnipiac's ready for that yet, but I do think they're a top 4 team. The way they've been playing and winning these games against Monmouth, you saw it this past weekend. I think
that's 2 walk-off wins against a team that was in the bottom 3 last year.
I think this team's taking a step forward. I think the starting pitching they didn't have before. I know the bullpen's a little weak, but overall,
yeah, but then look out at conference today. They lost 8-2 to Hartford. They just stepped right up, and they can't play teams outside of the MAC. And they played 2 of the worst teams in the MAC. That's why I'm not sure they can really get the job done.
That's why they're not going to win their conference.
Okay.
They're going to be just good enough, the top 4.
All right, fair.
But don't forget, they also lost to Hartford 12-11 a few weeks ago. But let's take a little bit of a closer look inside to their success so far, and it's been the pitching in the MAC so far. They've allowed 11 runs in their 6 MAC contests, but sandwiching those with 2 losses to Hartford that we just mentioned, the combined 20 runs that they allowed. So, John, Tom, tell me, is this pitching staff good enough to win the MAC?
It's not, Mike. Yeah, Mike, it's not. I mean, I talked to baseball beat reporter Robin Brown earlier, and she brought up a great point. Let's see, Quinnipiac has 3 pitchers who've thrown over 40 innings. That's Tyler Poland, the Marist transfer. He's 3-4 with 50 strikeouts. But why does it matter to strike out people? You end up losing 4 of your 7 starts. Other than that, Taylor Luciani, he's a sophomore. He gave up 58 hits. This year as a senior, he's given up 40 with 18 regular season games left. So that's 2 of their pitchers. And look at this Marist roster. Marist is right now in the middle of the conference. They're 3-3. They don't have 1 pitcher that's tossed over 40 innings. They have 5 guys that have 26 innings pitched or under. That's the depth that Quinnipiac needs to carry them at the end of the conference. And right now they got 3 guys throwing. That's not going to be good. 9 of their 14 pitchers have an ERA over 3.5. So Quinnipiac, their arms are going to get tired. They have 18 games left in the MAC, and I don't think they can carry it through.
Yeah, I agree. Their pitching is good enough to keep them in games, but it's not good enough to win the MAC.
Right.
I think their starting pitching, it's like we said, it's good enough. I like with Luciani, Shalaikis, and Poulin, they don't scream ace to me, but they do a good job keeping you in the game.
They can give you 5.
Exactly. 5 and fly. Their walk number is a little too high, but for me, the big issue is the bullpen. They don't get enough strikeouts. Their closer, Mike Davis, had a terrific year last year, 0.96 ERA, This year his ERA is over 5.
Yeah,
and his whip, walks and hits per innings pitched, it's basically how many base runners you give up. It's over 1.7. Yeah, so he's allowing almost 2 base runners.
He's not doing too bad in save opportunities, though. He's doing
he's not. But he's having some control issues, and the bridge to him is still a little unsettled. Carrera, Preciado, Della
Wyatt
Magaglia.
Hamilton picked up a loss the other day.
Yeah,
Workman got the win, though.
I was going to say, the other day, Workman was pitching extra innings, and he had an ERA over 13 at the time, and he did a great job. But I don't know how sustainable this bullpen is. I think it's definitely the weak spot of this team. They do a lot of living on the edge, and they do a good job wiggling out of jams so far, but I just don't know how much they can keep this up. It's a high-pressure style of baseball.
Yeah, the question was, is the pitching good enough to win the MAC? And I don't think it's good enough to win the MAC. I just don't see how 3 starters can carry you to greatness here in this
I agree. They don't have any depth in case of a possible injury. Anything goes awry.
I don't see it either.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
All right, guys. Well, now let's transition to softball, but not entirely. Last week, Kyle Levasseur and Drew Feinberg debated the respective value of Liam Scaffarello and Casey Herzog to the baseball and softball teams. Let's take a look at what they said.
Will, it's not even close. It is by far Casey Herzog carrying more pressure on her shoulders. She's a much better player, first of all. Plus, she pitches where Scarfiello doesn't. And pitching, to me, is much more important, especially with softball, where she's pitching almost every game.
I hate to agree with you here, but I'm going to agree with you here. The player with the more pressure is definitely Casey Herzog. I mean, Scaffarello has helped, like you said, Dylan Lutz, Evan Vogelmoor, Brian Moskey, helping him, but Herzog is getting it done on the mound, and the team is winning with her on the mound.
Well, guys, now that we're a whole week later, who do you think was right?
Well, I think they're both right. I think Casey Herzog's definitely the best, more valuable player. And I'll make an MLB comparison for you here. Anybody catch the LA Angels game last Sunday?
I didn't. Can you tell me about it?
Ever heard of a guy named Shohei Ohtani?
I have.
This guy threw 7 perfect innings before finally allowing a hit in the 8th inning.
Okay.
He also blasted 3 home runs over the course of the week. He's just as valuable as Mike Trout, who's won a couple of MVPs, maybe on a game in and game out basis. You can help them anyway. This is what the Bobcats have in Casey Herzog. So we always talk about her pitching.
They have Ohtani.
I think they
have
do.
a phenom from Japan that can hit home
On
runs
the
and pitch
baseball
complete
field,
games in
they've got
Major
just
League
as good.
Baseball.
Let's look at the stats. We talk about her pitching a lot. Let's talk about her when she's batting. She has the 2nd most runs, home runs, and RBI on the team. She has the 3rd best on base percentage and the 4th best slugging and average. We talk about her pitching all the time, but she's a huge part of the lineup. She's one of their better hitters. And let's not forget about that pitching.
She's one of the better hitters?
Well, 1.35 ERA. She's gotten the win in 12 of her team's 16 victories. That's 75%.
That's pitching.
And opponents have hit just 236 off of her.
No, she's a phenomenal pitcher.
Yeah, she's a great pitcher and a great hitter. She's definitely more valuable in terms of, day in and day out. Scaffarello, he's a little streaky sometimes.
He's hitting 230. He struck out 48 times this year.
He has more than double the strikeouts of anybody else.
Yeah, 2nd and 3rd
team.
place. They've added up to 1 more strikeout than him.
That's why Scaffarello, for me, is not as valuable as Herzog.
I agree. I do agree with that.
Game in and game out, his fielding's a little iffy. He's streaky. He has the lowest average on base percentage among starters.
Yeah.
You can see this past weekend was a great example. 1 swing of the bat. He does a great job keeping this team in this game, but game to game, Herzog just does too much.
Yeah, Herzog is too dominant.
Gotta love the Ohtani reference, but now let's make that transition completely into softball. The Bobcats played 5 games Thursday and Sunday between those few days, winning all 5. However, ace Casey Herzog only pitched in 2 of those games. Kendall Brundrett and Abby Long appeared in the other victories. So guys, does this weekend prove in your eyes that they can win games when Herzog isn't on the mound?
Okay, so the Quinnipiac softball team right now, they're 12-7. They're 16-17 on the year. Casey Herzog's 12-7, so their team is 4-10 when she doesn't pitch. So I'm not convinced. So the answer is going to be no, but this weekend does make me believe that the team could be headed in the right direction. Kendall Brunge has really come into her own. She's won her last 3 starts. Sacred Heart was her first victory as a starter since when she went the distance against St. Joe's on March 10th. And against her and Abby Long, I really think that they have a chance to win games, but it all depends on the bats. Rebecca Drake, who we're going to talk about later, she needs to heat up. It's just a whole bunch of different hitters that really need to come to play when Herzog doesn't pitch.
Yeah, I agree with what you said because the fact remains the Quinnipiac doesn't win when Herzog doesn't pitch.
It's true.
They're 4-10. Until their record even approaches 500, they haven't proved anything.
I agree.
So going off of that in terms of the pitching, do you think Brundrett is the clear number 2 starter after her impressive weekend?
I think that for now she is.
For now, yes,
there's a little bit of a caveat there.
Why?
Because Kendall Brundrett has been a little inconsistent over her career. She had a very good rookie season her freshman year.
What about
last
now?
year? Her ERA was over 7, so I'm not sure she's going to be able to sustain what she's done these last couple games. Before these couple games, her ERA was over 6.
Yeah.
So it's not like she was otherworldly. I think right now she's clearly ahead of Abby Long, who's race up to 10.
I was gonna
but
say.
I think Long definitely has a chance to recapture that form that we saw her freshman year when she was just as good as Casey Herzog. She had a better record, pitched just as many games.
Yeah.
That her ceiling is higher. I think there's a chance she could bounce back to that. Right now, Brundra, is the starter, but. I think Long has a good chance.
Talk for me what you can do now. Brundra started 3 games in the last 5 days. Long hasn't. Long's given up 9 earned runs in her last 5 innings she's pitched. Brundra's given up 4 in the last 17.
No, I agree.
That's a huge difference. So you have to
opportunity.
feed the hot hand. What are you doing for me now? I don't care what you did for me freshman year.
They did feed the
right now.
They did
right
feed
now,
the hot
Brundra's
hand.
the
She
number 2
earned
starter.
an opportunity to keep going. She's going to keep going. But if she slips up, I think Abby Long is perfectly capable of stepping into that role.
Abby Long hasn't pitched more than 3 in the 3rd inning since the game against Butler, and that was March 14th.
I think Long is capable of stepping into this role. She's got the
right
track
now.
record. And
She does have the track record, but right now it's Brundra who's the number 2, and I really don't think we can debate that.
No, right now, very
Yeah,
clearly.
right now.
I just think it can change. I think it will change
It
before
can
the season's
change.
over.
Everything in life can change, but
I agree.
Right now, Kendall Brundra's the number 2 starter.
Yeah, no debate there.
Okay, cool.
All right, guys, let's try to calm down a little bit. But now to the other side of the ball, the hitting. Infielder Rebecca Drake was slotted in the 8 or 9 hole every game this weekend. Does this surprise you guys?
Well, I'm surprised that she's not hitting as well as expected, but I'm not surprised where she was hitting this past weekend at the bottom of the lineup. Look at the numbers. 2nd worst batting average, on base percentage,
11th
and the
on
most
the team.
And
there are more than 13 players in the team.
and the most strike. I was talking mainly among starters.
Okay.
And just 1 year after being a team leader in most of these offensive categories, her performance has dropped. There's definitely 5 to 7 people you want ahead of her, but she could be coming out of this. She had 6 RBIs this past weekend. Maybe her spot in the lineup will rise.
She was preseason all-max selection. She had over 400 last year. That's absurd. Put her in the top 5 of the lineup. I am surprised.
Well, you do have to earn that. So if we're gonna bench Abby Long, then we might as well bench Rebecca Drake for this. So that's what you're saying.
I don't know if that's exactly what I'm saying. Hitters and pitchers are different.
Guys.
I think you just sandwich her in between a bunch of good hitters, and we'll see what happens.
Guys, let's try to settle down. It's time to go to a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we'll have women's golf player Julia Kemling on air, plus we'll discuss the state of the lacrosse teams. We'll be right back.
Hello, and tonight on Sandwich News, we will determine what makes a good sandwich and a bad sandwich. First, the standard sandwich. Uninspired, and frankly, a little gross. But we have here a Ray and Mike sandwich, the Cadillac of sandwiches. And if you want one, well,
come on down to Ray and Mike's at 3030 Whitney Ave, Hamden, Connecticut. Open every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. QCash is accepted.
now that's a sandwich.
This is Sports Pause.
Are you concerned with the 0-2 start to this team?
Right here, top of the circle, again, rips it past the grassroots goalie.
What will breaking the record mean for the program himself? I mean, 138 wins.
There's the tough shot. What a nice play by Mikey Dixon.
He's good in transition. Just a really dynamic scorer he can create for himself.
And now, Emma, it's time for the top 5 plays of the week.
Coming up on #that, we talk about some fun events around Quinnipiac's campus.
And we talk about some weird news that's been discussed around Twitter.
All that and more, we are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Welcome to the WQAQ Morning Show. Dan Ball and Emma Spagnolo joining you here from the QAQ studios in Hamden. And Emma, it is that time of year again.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. Joining us live in the Piazza is women's golf player and junior Julia Kemling. She's live in the studio with Aaron Robinson. Aaron?
Thanks, guys. Julia, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's get right into it. So, you were able to win a MAC championship both of your first 2 years in Hamden. Just kind of walk me through what it felt like being able to have so much success your first 2 years on campus.
It was an awesome experience. I mean, I really couldn't have asked for anything better. To come in as a freshman with high expectations and have them all met and then repeat the same thing the next year just gives us even more motivation to do it again this year.
So, great lead into my next question. You guys are getting ready to try to go for a three-peat and win your third straight MAC championship. What do you think is the main thing you're going to have to focus on as a group to be able to complete the three-peat?
I think we just have to focus on playing our own game, playing against the course rather than our competitors, staying in a positive mindset while we're there, and really just focusing on getting the job done.
Yeah. So you individually have had a lot of success here. What do you think is something that individually you want to accomplish at this year's tournament?
Ideally, I'd love to win individually, but my main goal is definitely the team win. That's always most important to me, and I think to all the other girls on the team, which is why we are so successful. We really work as a team unit.
Yep. So you were able to come out here as a freshman starting out, and now you're a junior and you're a captain. So how has your role kind of changed throughout your career here at Quinnipiac?
I started out as a freshman not really knowing how things went on a college golf team, and I really looked up to our seniors at the time. And now I think being co-captains with Luciana, we really try to mentor the younger girls, and we have some awesome freshmen that came in this year that are definitely helping us, and it's so nice to see them be such a big part of the team, and I think they kind of emulate how Lou and I were when we were freshmen.
Yep. So you talked about how you and Luciana are co-captains. You two have been two of the more successful Quinnipiac golfers in recent memory, both being named to the first team All-MAC 2 years in a row and being able to together win 2 MAC championships. So what is having somebody like her, in your same class as you, how has that been able to just help you and vice versa, you help her, and how have you guys been able to feed off of each other kind of?
Yeah, we definitely bounce off of each other's ideas. We motivate each other. She's always pushing me to be better, and I'm trying to push her to be better. She's a great person to have by my side through all of our tournaments, all of our ups and downs on the golf course, and she always helps me stay positive at the end of the day.
Cool. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to throw it back to the desk. Thank you, guys. Back to you.
Thanks a lot, Aaron. Now let's transition from the links to the lacrosse field. Wait, why aren't you guys on the desk? Why are you by the water cooler? We have a show to do. What are you guys doing?
Come on.
Water cooler talk, Mike.
I'm thirsty from being on the desk during A block. You know what, Tom? You want something to drink? Grab a water.
I love it, man. Cheers.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, guys, while you're filling up, the men's and women's lacrosse teams are both well underway in conference play, the men's team being 3-0 with 3 games to play, while the women's team is 1-3 with 4 games to play in the MAC. So while you guys are over there, would you mind telling me what's more likely, the men's team finishing first in the MAC or the women's team finishing in last?
Tom, I'm just going to get some water so you can start while I drink this.
Okay, sure, you got it. I think that the men's lacrosse team finishing in first is more likely than the women's team finishing last.
Okay.
That's for a couple reasons.
Yeah.
One, the men's lacrosse team's already in first place and they have less games remaining, so they stand a better chance if not actually losing that ground they've worked so hard to get. Also, I think the women's lacrosse team on campus here, it's been better this year than it has been in many years on campus. They've deserved to be above last place. They're not going to stoop down to the level of Siena or Manhattan or some of the other teams. I think they've cleared that bar. I think they're going to make it this year.
No, I agree with you. I think the men have a higher chance of getting first. They have 5 players in double-digit scoring. Matt Frost just joined that party by picking up his 13th goal of the year over the weekend. And men's lacrosse just has a great attack. The women's lacrosse team, they're not a bottom feeder in the conference. They have Allison Kuhn with 22 goals. Kira Kelly's leading that defense. They have had goalie issues, which I'm sure we'll get to soon, but I really think the women's lacrosse team won't finish in last, and the men's team has a higher chance of getting first.
Completely agree.
Yeah, but I want to ask you something else, though. So we got 2 studs on both teams. Ashley Babinski, 24 goals, 16 assists. Foster Cuomo, 22 goals and 10 assists. So tell me, who do you think's the better scorer?
So I'm going to take Cuomo because when you look at the goals per game stat, they're really not that much different. It's 1.57 for Cuomo, 1.66 for Babinski. So we're really splitting hairs with that. Overall goals on the year, Babinski has 24. Cuomo has 22, and that's just in 2 less games. So really, he has just as many if you were to give him the time.
Babinski does have more goals, though, and the question is she's a better goal scorer.
With 2 more games.
Okay.
She also she's done it on less shots, which some people would say, well, that's a good thing because it means she's got a better shot. But my argument against that is does she not have confidence in it? Why doesn't she take her shot as much? Is she easier to get boxed out of the play? Cuomo's taken 70 shots in the season.
Yeah, that's a great point, though, actually, that you bring right there. But Babinski is her and Allison Kuhn. Laura Antonucci's third on the team in goals. She has 10. Then Maya Feigenbaum has 7. That's drifting.
Yeah, it's definitely top heavy.
The men's have 5 players who can score. Foster Cuomo against Manhattan on Saturday. He didn't score until Quinnipiac's 7th goal. He didn't have any points.
Yeah,
and they didn't even
the
need him.
team's more top heavy, yes.
Yes, the women's team's more top heavy with 2, and Babinski, I think, is the better scorer because she knows that her team needs her even more, and she does that by providing. Cuomo can take plays off. I'm not saying he does. He's a great player, very athletic, very agile, and has good vision.
He doesn't take plays off because
Babinski's a better scorer.
He doesn't take plays off. He has just as many goals, two less games.
Yeah.
I bet you he's going to be able to make that up. So he's going to have just as many goals, and he's taking all the shots for his team. He has more load in his back.
Okay, that's a fair point. I see what you're saying, and now I see what I'm saying. We talked about the goals. Now let's talk about the defense. We got the men's and the women's team both, a little fragile on the defensive end, but who do you think has the better defense?
I'm going to go with the women's team.
Okay.
Because on a per-game rate basis, they allow less shots per game, less goals per game. They're better.
Drink some water.
They're better in penalty-killing situations, and they've had 7 games with single-digit goals against, less than double digits. Men's only had 4 of those. They're consistently allowing double-digit goals per game. It's just too many. I think women's lacrosse has a good goalie, too, and Kyle Larkin.
See, when I heard this question, I immediately thought I was going to answer the same way as you, but the women's team has given up 5 goals in the first half of both games, so now it's up for debate to see what will happen.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Last section, man, real quick. Tom's take or Banks' briefing? Which
Banks'
one's better
briefing
and why?
all the way. Mike Riley came up with that name, so he's got to go with my side.
Well, Tom's take was the original. It's short, sweet, it's to the point. And what's a briefing anyway? You got to bring your briefcase with you next time instead of your hockey stick?
That's a fair point. I'm done with this water. Let's see what Mike has to say about this.
I actually do prefer Tom's take, even though I came up with Banks' briefing. It's the original. You can't beat it. All right, great stuff, guys. Maybe you can quit slacking and get back on the desk during this commercial break. But when we come back, we'll talk about the game of the week, and we'll have a preview of the postseason for the acrobatics and tumbling team, and of course, our final roars. Don't close that stream. We'll be right back.
Bobcat Breakdown, presented by the Quinnipiac Bobcat Sports Network.
We are your source for debate.
Did they make the playoffs last year, Tom Jenkins?
When it clicks, it clicks.
We dissect Quinnipiac athletics on a scale you've never seen before.
With Tobia, it almost looks like she's reaching a little bit.
Plus, we bring in the biggest names surrounding college sports.
We are live here at the Times Union Center with Jay Billis.
And of course, some comedy.
But you can only have so much arena food.
I think you're crazy.
Bobcat Breakdown.
Tuesdays at 9:30.
Coming up on #that, we talk about some fun events around Quinnipiac's campus.
And we talk about some weird news that's been discussed around Twitter.
All that and more, we are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Tonight on Sandwich News, we will determine what makes a good sandwich and a bad sandwich. First, the standard sandwich. Uninspired, and frankly, a little gross. But we have here a Ray and Mike sandwich, the Cadillac of sandwiches. And if you want one, well,
come on down to Ray and Mike's at 3030 Whitney Ave, Hamden, Connecticut. Open every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Qcash is accepted.
Now that's a sandwich.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. This week, the game of the week is Quinnipiac baseball against the Boston College Eagles. Banks, I know you're an Eagles fan in pro football, but are you backing them this week in the baseball game?
Mike, I think whenever I hear the word Eagles, I have to pick that team to win, to be honest with you. Boston College, they're 11-19, but I mean, this is an ACC team that Quinnipiac's playing against. This isn't St. Peter's, this isn't Monmouth. The Bobcats also have one eye on Siena anyway this coming weekend in the doubleheader, so that game means way more for them in their season than this one. Beating Boston College could be a huge momentum boost, but honestly, ACC team, I don't see it happening for a team from the MAC.
Yeah, it's good you mentioned that they're an ACC team. They've played Clemson, Virginia, Virginia Tech, Army, Santa Clara.
St. Peter's and Monmouth.
They even played the Boston Red Sox in an exhibition game. They lost all those games,
yes.
though. Okay, I think Quinnipiac can win this game. They've been resilient on the road. They've gone 11-15 on the road. They're coming in hot. I know they lost tonight, but they're coming in hot with MAC play. And they top Boston College in most major stat categories. Higher team batting average, more home runs. They're better at scoring and preventing runs. That's what matters. They've scored more runs. They've allowed less. I think they can win this one. Let's say 6-3.
Okay, but one interesting storyline is Liam Scaffarello, who has 6 home runs and 30 RBIs in the year. He's hitting .230. So, some games like against Monmouth, the first game on Saturday, he had 4 RBIs. on only 2 hits, and then other games he'll strike out 4 times and 4 at-bats. So he's an interesting storyline to check out, and I think that'll be the key. If Quinnipiac is to beat Boston College, I think that's going to be a main reason why.
Yeah, he can definitely make or break a game for this team. He goes 0 for 4 with a golden sombrero. They're probably going to lose
Love
that game.
Terminology.
But you saw it with just one swing of the bat, how the outlook of this game can change if he gets a hold of one. It's happened a couple times in a row here. He, had those 2 walk-off wins are both largely by his doing.
Yeah. That home run against Monmouth, I wanted to climb up the Sleeping Giant trail to see if I could get it back and get the ball.
Yeah, I don't know where that ball went. That ball is gone, man.
Well, guys, if you're coaching for Quinnipiac, are you using one of your best pitchers in this non-conference game?
I'll go first. I'm not, personally, because I think conference record is everything, especially for a team from the MAC. Quinnipiac 6-0 right now. They have 18 games left. I would focus on that. Like, I understand the argument you want to play your best players against your best team, against the best teams, but I would rest. I would rest the arms. I really would.
I think that there's definitely value in what you're saying, but I also think you play to win the game. You got to get some wins going, and you got to have some guys on rest probably. Luciani pitched on Saturday, so he's probably good to go. And you got guys like Shalikis and Poulin and a couple other guys that can step up from the bullpen. And just in case in the next series, I think I'd go with Luciani in this game. You want to get this win; it would be a statement win. You said so yourself. Let's go grab it.
That's a good point. But just question here. Let's say Quinnipiac goes and they miss a spot in the postseason or a spot anywhere by 1 game, and it's because they threw one of the big guns against Boston College when they didn't need to.
You could say there's a lot of things. If it's 1 game, you could point to a lot of different games. It doesn't have to specifically be this one. It would probably end up being a conference game anyway.
All right, so I'm not sure why you're the one asking the questions here. It's kind of my job, but that's all right. Okay,
I'm trying to take your job.
We'll just have to see what happens come first pitch between that game. So now let's turn it over to Sean Raggio, who previewed the postseason for the acrobatics and tumbling team in Sean's sense. Take it away, Don.
Hearing that the Quinnipiac acrobatics and tumbling team is heading to nationals should come as a surprise to no one. I'm Sean Raggio, and this is Sean's Sense. Last year, the Bobcats lost in the semifinals to eventual champion Baylor Bears, but have made history this season, having beaten the Oregon Ducks for the first time in program history. And get this, it was in Oregon. While the Bobcats do have 2 losses on the season, one of those losses came to Baylor, who was undefeated on the year, and the other loss came against Azusa Pacific with just a .31 margin. How did the Bobcats bounce back? They beat Gannon this past Sunday in a back-and-forth meet where the final score doesn't really tell the story of the meet. And another thing with the Gannon meet, they come back stronger when they get knocked down. Jenna Capristo fell during the tumbling event, and the team didn't get down. They got around her and picked her up, went out, and they got the win. This grit is due in part to the experience of the team, aside from the freshmen. The team, aside from the freshmen, have been through the ringer and have nationals experience. I don't want to sound like your typical hometown reporter, but I do think the Bobcats have what it takes to pull out this win and win the national championship. The margin of victory would be small, minuscule, but the chemistry of this team and their fight both looks and sounds to me like it's the best the team has had in years. Senior base and co-captain Jenna Adams said this to me during a postgame. Quote, "We call this the team the dream team all the time because it's just every day and every meet we get better and better, and just the confidence and the passion that this team has is something I don't think either of us have experienced yet since being at Quinnipiac," end quote. Obviously, Baylor is an impressive team, but with the experience and the chemistry and the confidence that this Bobcat team has shown, I think that the Bobcats can keep it close, and if it comes down to a lone heat, the Bobcats are going to hit it and win it.
Thanks. What'd you think of Sean's sense there?
I thought Sean's sense was great. I mean, it made a lot of sense to me. Some great points. Acro tumbling team. They're going to the national championships, winning 5 of their last 6. Carmen Diaz had 3 perfect 10s last match. They're just riding a good streak right now.
Yeah, they're the 3rd best team in the nation right now. The last time they lost to the then number 3 seed, they lost by 31/100ths of a point. They beat the number 1 seed Baylor earlier in the year by 4 points. They lost by only 4 points. These are close margins. Yeah. They're a contender for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, good stuff, guys. Last but not least here on Bobcat Breakdown, our final roars. Banks, how about you start us off?
It's my pleasure, Mike. In most sports, a long winning or losing streak can define a team's campaign. However, for a sport like baseball, where teams play numerous games in a season, this is not always the case. The Quinnipiac men's baseball team is off to their best start in MAC play since 2004. From exciting walk-off wins to Liam Scafarello bombs across the street onto the Sleeping Giant, there are plenty of reasons to jump on the hype train. But all I'm saying right now is to make sure to be cautiously optimistic when boarding. The Bobcats have 18 conference games left to play. They're currently 6-0. This means they've only played a third of the games that matter so far this year. I'm just as intrigued as you are to sit back and watch to see if the current streak they're on defines their season, or if the streak of the opposite trajectory will soon follow.
Recently, the MLB announced a new extra innings rule to be implemented into minor league baseball with the intent to end games faster. Now, if a minor league game goes to extra innings, the teams begin each half inning with a runner at second base. The Bobcats just played a thrilling weekend of college baseball, which included a series finale that went to extra innings. The game had it all: a couple of lead changes, pitchers getting into and out of trouble, and ultimately a hard-fought Bobcat walk-off victory in 11 innings. Every time a team gets a base runner in extra innings, the tension rises. The game would have felt artificial had either Monmouth or Quinnipiac won thanks to a token runner in scoring position. The rule is tacky and takes away a lot of the thrill of extra innings. This rule has already made a mockery of minor league baseball, so let's make sure it doesn't invade college baseball anytime soon.
The Humboldt Broncos hockey team in Canada was en route to a playoff game when their bus collided with a tractor trailer. 15 people were killed and 12 others are injured. Obviously, one can't help but feel awful for the families of those who passed, and we obviously can't help but take a step back and look at our own lives. Many of us here in this department played sports, and almost all of the athletes here on campus, the men's and women's hockey players in particular, have spent excruciating amounts of time traveling to and from games before and during their collegiate careers, just as these kids were. So, the next time you hear someone describe sports as just a game, remember that sports are not just a game, because sports are played by people just like you and me, and no one wants to see this happen to anyone. Well, guys, that's all the time we have for today, but that does not mean the sports coverage ends. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Q30Sports and at QBSN, and you can check out all of our work online at www.q30tv.com and at www.theqbsn.com. For Tom Krasnowski, Jonathan Banks, and all the wonderful people behind the scenes, I'm Mike Riley. Have a great night.